not involved in any way. As a matter of fact, he was standing on the first floor watching the parade.
Using unprecedented modern-day digital computer technology, Larry Rivera presents scientific evidence which in any court of law would exonerate Lee Oswald of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Rivera meticulously takes the reader through the intricacies of digital overlays which prove that Lee was standing in the book depository doorway while the assassination was taking place, that the backyard photos were cleverly manufactured to frame him, and how the 3D program Blender can recreate Dealey Plaza was on 22 November 1963, so we can finally determine where JFK was really shot that fateful day. As if this were not enough, Rivera reveals what really happened on Elm Street as recently transcribed interviews with the motorcycle escort officers who were closest to JFK that day describe a heretofore unknown version of the events that shook our nation to its core and affected the history of the world forever. Don't miss it.
Hi, this is Gary King. If you're interested in the book, then go to patriotradiobooks.com. That's patriotradiobooks.com.
All right, welcome to the new JFK show number 233. Larry is fresh back from a conference, and I've been waiting a very long time for some good news about any conferences. The JFK Historical Group, put on by David Denton, and I always did like David. So, Larry, what happened at the conference?
Hey, how you guys doing? Fresh back from the boondocks. Okay, 2.5 drive from St. Louis, east of St. Louis.
The world-renowned city of Olney.
That's right, southeast Illinois, but a population 9,500.
All right.
Okay, small Olney Central College, but I have to say that the people were wonderful. The venue was very comfortable. The auditorium, the setup, David Denton, again, a master in organizing conferences, and I just can't, applaud David enough. He had us at his house.
His wife doesn't get quite enough credit because she's over there minding the store as well. I've seen her at work.
Yeah, he had us at his house for dinner. Very generous. I mean, like I said, he's top notch. Very, very, very decent, very nice people. Everybody, the students and everybody were very interested. In something like this coming to a very small college, okay, and so and the media was there, and we had some very interesting people speaking. Our keynote was Lisa Peace, okay, right here, and Ed Tatro. If you guys can see that, can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah, and we had. Chris Fulton, remember we spoke about The Inheritance with Phil Nelson, the book about the witch. Yeah,
which we concluded was disinformation.
Well, Richard Bartholomew, Shane O'Sullivan, he did via Skype.
They're good. Shane's done all this work on Bobby.
Yeah, Casey Quinlan did a tremendous presentation on QJ Wynn and the identity of him and the assassination teams.
Good.
Phil Nelson.
Yeah.
This guy by the name is Scorzeni, who ran those assassination teams with King Harvey, and the identity of QJ Wynn under the ZR rifle program, okay, of assassinations. Stan Weber, okay. We had Brian Edwards. He was a SWAT member, and him and Casey wrote that book, Behind the Fence Line. Judy, our own Judy Baker, this year.
Okay.
We had William Law, okay. John Barber, yes, my man.
I like John Barber now.
Spent a lot of good quality time with John, man. Now Hyman, the professor, he's got a great book on the media and how the media has gone to sleep on the assassination. A book that he took him 21 years to write, but it's a really, really good read. Chris Milligan, okay.
The publisher.
Mr. Smoker, Damon Eyes. We had Randy Benson, who's the filmmaker. He did the Searchers, okay, a very, very good film. Myself, and David, of course.
On the same page with David Denton, Larry. That's a highlight.
I have to say that my very first interview in the very beginning of my JFK days was David Denton, and Ed Tratro said to interview him because he didn't take interviews. That was a long time.
We had David Knight, a very up-and-coming young researcher. We're going to talk about him a little bit tonight. And Virginia, Judy's, it's also Judy's witness over there in New Orleans. So it was a good lineup, and let's do a little screen share. Gary, I can do screen share. Yeah, okay. Let's see. So things really ran very efficiently. They didn't start too early. They didn't finish too late. Sometimes how these things kind of bog down, and then at the end of the day, people, sort of get lost, in the shuffle there, So I just wanted to, you guys, that we did this on the McCone Journal, okay, and this was a sensation, I must say, of the conference. Everybody was buzzing and, talking about this. David really wanted to present this. It was towards the end of my presentation because I had, remember we did the other stuff on the photographic surveillance and the wiretapping and everything. So I had, believe it or not, 125 slides, okay? So I was going a mile a minute. But I was able to get this done. They actually gave me an hour because one of the guys that was presented, the first guy that morning, had some kind of migraine, so he couldn't go. So Richard and I, who were the next ones, Richard Bartholomew, were given 10 extra minutes. So that was good. And so basically, we already showed this our last time, but remember we identified John McCone as the owner of that journal, that diary.
Yes.
Yeah, and we were able to pinpoint all these meetings with the president. But I've been able now to, discuss this, with other researchers and especially with Phil Nelson. And right away, this has to be studied in depth, because not only November is key, but the rest of the year and who he was interacting with. And it gives us, that real intimate view of what this man did on a day in and day out basis, And I just wanted to, because I wrote this up here, and let's see, right here, the journal consists of 97 pages, which cover roughly 102 days of the year 1963. It reveals a life of privilege and exclusivity, of black tie affairs and banquets, private jets and golf courses, and most importantly, access and interaction with those in control of the United States government, intelligence agencies, and the military. I mean, that in a nutshell is what this journal is about, Jim, And if you go throughout the year, if you, day by day, like I said, this is something that historians and researchers really need to pay close attention to, because it puts names.
So McCone may have been doing some of the coordinating behind the scenes.
Absolutely. That's what, we determined last time when we, first of all, we were able to cross-reference, all these meetings with the president with memorandums for the record, which documented those meetings, which were able to put a name and a face to the owner of the journal, okay, of the diary. So,
now, Larry, as much as we love what you've done with this, we're keenly interested in your reception and the reaction to your book. We have reviewed this stuff in a previous show.
Right.
So it's good that it got a fantastic reception, and I want you to elaborate on that. But I and Gary are both keenly interested in the reaction to your book, the JFK Horseman.
Well, I only had one copy of the book with me because for some type of we had some miscommunication with the
Why
public.
don't you go back to you? Get Larry back on the screen, Gary.
I'm,
Stop the share. Just go.
I'm doing the share. Yeah. Yeah. Regarding the book, I only took one. However, the people with whom I shared it were Casey Quinlan and Brian Edwards, and David Knight. And I want to spend some time tonight talking about David's research because it's really, really super important. I have it right here in my hands. Yes, the reception was so good that we did a 20-minute promo for their group. Is called projectjfk.com. And you see it here, projectjfk.com. Anybody there, you'll be able to read and download all of their work, which is really outstanding, in itself. And Casey, who was just incredible. His presentation was outstanding. I was just talking about it. And Brian also was incredible from a sniper standpoint, talking about all the positions and everything. And David, which I'm going to talk about, I want to reserve, like I said, some time, for David's work because it coincides with what we have done regarding the shot from the front. We did a show recently back in December when Gary went down there. Remember, we did the shot from the front, from the cubby hole where we've been so many times under that the bridge there. But regarding the book, they were so impressed, that they told me they spent they up to 3 in the morning one night, talking about the book, and going through chapters and reading the book, reading it out loud to each other, which I thought was
Larry, that's just sensational, my friend. That's just sensational. I love it.
Yeah. So then they started to tell other people at the conference about the book. Some of them knew about it, others didn't. So
which were the parts they were reacting to with the greatest enthusiasm?
Well, I'm going to tell you the Null Rider. The Null Rider, Beverly Brunson's work, the JFK Horsemen themselves on the recordings, because I had already given them, some of that.
They didn't know that Douglas Jackson had motored up on the Knoll?
No. And guess what? They had, Brian has pristine copies of the Bond slides. Wilma Bond.
So you can see the tracks especially clearly.
Exactly. And
wonderful, Larry.
Not only that, he had one of these devices, these
3D viewer,
virtual reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see them in depth of the depressions. Exactly. I love it, Larry.
And he plugged, the Wilma Bond slides in there. And it's so amazing technology. You're in Dealey Plaza. You're looking, and you can see the tracks right there, They told me that in 4 of the slides, clearly you can see the tracks, the same as you can see them in the Bell slides that we published in the book.
How wonderful!
So they're going, wow, after they read about that, and they saw about the tracks and they saw about that, they started to look, at their work, and so they're starting to confirm.
Now, do they appreciate that you do not see this in the Zapruder film?
Absolutely. So then from there, then you have to go to the premise of, okay, now, what about, let's talk about the tapes, the JFK Horseman tapes, the Fred Newcomb tapes, and so now, one thing leads to the other, obviously, and
the
now,
massive editing of the Zapruder film.
Yeah, absolutely. So that I thought that was really, and in fact, everybody started, once they broke out, that viewer, everybody wanted to see, and even at Tatro, they put the goggles on him.
Larry, this is wonderful, my friend. Wonderful.
Yeah. So the book, we did a 20-minute promo, and it's going to be published on their website that I just flashed a card here. Okay.
Yeah.
JFK Project.
Yeah. ProjectJFK.com. We can read it.
JFK.com. Okay. And we're collaborating on some stuff, and I'm reciprocating, what they've done, and I want to give David some really good props here, and that's why I want to go here back, and we're gonna hear the shot from the front. This one is gonna blow you guys away because it blew me away, and I think Jim wants to go ahead and read us aloud this?
This weekend at the JFK Historical Group Conference, I had the pleasure of meeting ballistics and weapons expert David Knight. As often happens during JFK conferences, researchers and authors have the opportunity to meet and compare notes on areas of research that overlap. In this case, David gave a wonderful presentation where he presented a complete study on the weapons that could have been used to execute the frontal shot, which penetrated the windshield of JFK's limousine, striking him below the Adam's apple, as described in our post, "A Shot from the Front."
Yeah,
David correctly analyzed the size of the hole entry reported by the Parkland doctors was only 3.5 millimeters in diameter.
No, 3 to 5, 3 to 5, 3 to 5.
Oh, 3 to 5, yeah, 3 to 5 rather than 3.5.
Yeah, and this is
Dr. Charles Rufus Baxter, general surgeon. The wound in the neck was approximately 1.5 inches above the mandibrum of the sternum, the sternal notch. The wound, in my estimation, 4 to 5 millimeters in widest diameter, was a spherical wound. The edges of it, the size of the wound, is measured by the whole blessed damaged skin around the area, so it was a very small wound. David ran a complete inventory of rifles mentioned on 22 November 1963 and determined that all of them were of a greater bore than what caused this 4 to 5 millimeter wound. Beside the Mannlicher Carcano, 6.5 millimeter, David posited the following weapons: a .303 Enfield, first announced by the media and found at Buell Wesley Fraser's home; a 7.65 German Mauser, also proclaimed by the media that day. None of these weapons were capable of causing this type of wound. There is, however, one weapon above all which can be suspected is that which might have been used from the cubbyhole under the triple underpass on the South Knoll, where Commerce traverses Dealey Plaza. Amazingly enough, David also showed this image of an AR-5 Hornet high-powered rifle which belonged to, of all people, General Curtis LeMay. LeMay was one of President Kennedy's worst enemies and was also president of Bethesda Autopsy, smoking his victory cigar.
Look at this.
Larry, this is fascinating.
AR-5 Hornet.
An Air Force expert, Jack Lawrence, to use this weapon, his weapon, from inside the triple underpass. How grotesque, how fitting.
Okay, the first AR-5 had the single lock. Oh, no, and what's so amazing about this rifle, when you break it down, the barrel and the assembly up here fits right into the buttstock, Jim. You know, and okay. I was just blown away because he walked up to the stage and he just pulls it out of his jacket, okay, right there, and assembles it right there on the stage in 2 seconds, you know, and you would have never known that he had that inside his jacket.
Did he scare anybody?
Now, if they really
this is fascinating.
If they really wanted to make Lee Oswald, you know, walk into the TSPD with a rifle, you know, under his armpit, this is the one they should have used. This is the one they should have picked. It would have been perfect, you know. Yeah, so go ahead.
Yeah, but Larry, it's too sophisticated a weapon. How would
Oh yeah.
This implicates the military immediately.
In fact, he showed in one of the James Bond movies. He played a clip, you know, where James Bond, you know, is executing. I'm talking about Sean Connery, an assassination using the same weapon, okay, from afar, okay, to prove, you know, that this is the one. So here are the specifications right here.
Okay, weight 2.5 pounds, length 28 inches, barrel length 14, total length 42, 5-round capacity. An example given by David of the power is as follows: a 35 grain round, 2 grams, velocity 3,060 feet per second, energy 728 foot-pounds, more than enough to perforate a non-bulletproof windshield. The rifle could be disassembled and easily concealed in a jacket. The barrel assembly was designed to fit into the buttstock. Here's more information. Long after forming, the company hired a former Marine with a background in aviation ordnance, Eugene Stoner, as its senior design engineer. Armalite's tastes reflected those of its parent company. Stoner worked not with traditional steel and wooden stock, but with aircraft-grade aluminum, new alloys, and plastics, materials that made firearm traditionalists cringe. Fortunately for Armalite, the Fairchild executives had a sales approach as novel as their weapons. Boutel's long-standing friendship with General Curtis LeMay of the Air Force gave Armalite unusual access to an alternative market inside the Pentagon.
There you
By
go.
1956, the Air Force had taken an interest in the AR-5, a collapsible rifle that Armalite proposed for inclusion in survival kits for air crews. The rifle weighed 2.5 pounds and could be disassembled and stored inside its own plastic stock. According to Armalite, it even floated. The AR-5 never entered mass production, but it made Armalite, a firm that emerged from almost nothing at all, a contender for contracts in a business in which new firms usually met closed doors.
Amazing, huh?
A demonstration. By the way, the weapon can also be fitted for both a silencer and a telescopic lens. Fascinating.
Here's David assembling. This is after he took it out from under his jacket, Jim. You know, and here is an image of one of the rounds. Okay, and here is an actual photo that I took today, and I don't know if you guys can see this. Can you guys see this?
Yeah, sure. We can see it.
Okay, here you go. This is there you go.
Is a tip armor a glass piercing?
It's got a plastic tip, okay, which can be here we go. Which can be, you see that?
Yeah, we're looking at it in the image, Larry.
In the image, yeah, but I also have it here.
I see it there. We see it in both places.
Yeah, okay, and to give you a perspective and scale, the quarter.
Of course.
Yeah, and this is the only type of weapon, the only bore, the only diameter of round that would have given you that shot from the front going through the windshield.
That would have given you that small, clean puncture wound in the throat.
That's right, and not only that, the puncture through the windshield where a pencil, you could slip a pencil through.
Listen, David Mandick will be fascinated by this, Larry.
I hope so. So, and then here, the weapon is shown here is small enough and light enough to hold in the palm of the hand. Look at this. Look at, he's holding it in his fingers, Jim.
Yeah, I think this is correct. I think this was a weapon. I think this is fantastic, Larry. And you see, it was an obscure weapon. It was going to make it much more difficult to sort out what actually had happened.
Not only that, only available to the Pentagon.
Right.
And Curtis LeMay. So
yep.
This is David, and he just.
And that would have given Curtis LeMay such personal satisfaction to have JFK shot by a weapon that belonged to him.
No, and guess what? You see the label, the tag here?
I do.
Isn't that morbid? It's even his signature. Who knows? This could have been the weapon right here.
I agree. It could have been the actual weapon. I agree.
The actual weapon. And for those dimensions, for that small hole of entry, these 22 rounds, once they pierce, they don't go any further. They bounce around, and which is
perfect.
Which happens to be Lisa Peace's thesis, on the 22 that. Bobby, let me show you guys, this is Lisa's book, okay, which I highly recommend, okay. It breaks the norm, on what we have on Bobby, because Lisa is talking about 4 shooters, not 2, okay. So some of these so-called experts on the Robert Kennedy assassination are up in arms.
What did Sean O'Sullivan say about Lisa?
Oh, they had a debate, and it was, Sean wasn't happy at all, about this, because.
Let me just give you a general take. Lisa Pease and Jim DiEugenio have been doing disinformation in JFK for a very long time, for decades. My take, I'm not asking you to agree. I'm telling you, in my judgment, Lisa Pease is not an honest researcher. Now, that doesn't mean what she's saying about Bobby could be wrong, but I know Shane O'Sullivan. I've collaborated with Jane O'Sullivan. Mm-hmm. I believe he is an honest investigator, and if there were a clash between them, my tendency would be to come out on the side of Shane O'Sullivan, but I'd want to see the evidence.
Well, the thing about Lisa's book is she has tracked down other more witnesses that never were interviewed. And
give us the basics of her account. We got Thane Eugene Caesar. We got Sirhan firing 8 shots, none of which hit Bobby. We got Thane Eugene Caesar firing 4, 3 of which hit Bobby. 1 1.5 inches behind the ear, the other 2 beneath the armpit, one of which lodges in his spine. Now, what are the other shots that are fired? Because there were as many as 14, and you got 8 plus 4 is only 12.
That's right. And basically what's coming out now from her research is that whoever shot the fatal shot in the mastoid process here behind the ear was a young man dressed as a busboy, as a one of the workers there in the pantry, and the witnesses that she interviewed could not actually see a gun. They could see a hand, and apparently she has been able to track down some kind of weapon that goes in the palm of the hand. It doesn't show a barrel or anything that fires, by squeezing of the palm, in a certain way where the weapon is not visible. Sort of like a derringer of sorts, a very small weapon that that you can't really see.
Did she show the weapon? She has photos of the weapon, I take it?
No. Her book doesn't have any pictures, any photos at all, which is also one of the things that I even told her. I said, look, it would be nice because you talk about the south entrance, the north entrance of the pantry and everything, but it would be nice to have a diagram, to show, the reader.
Of course. I'd be very interested in Shane's critique. Yeah. I'd like to feature Shane. We could have both of them, not necessarily at the same time. I'd want to begin with Shane, to tell you the truth, to get his take, because he's done so much work. I mean, he has video, he's got a film, he's got a book about it. I mean, the guy's done sensational work, and I know him. I believe we can bring Shane onto the show.
Yeah, a long time ago, I actually interviewed Lisa Peace, and she was very emphatic that Edward Lansdale was not in Dealey Plaza and other things like that. It was an exclusive interview, actually, about the time I interviewed David Denton, but I've also found her not to be 100% credible. So I'm not saying that what she's saying now is not true, but a few red flags go up.
Yeah, I'm not just saying she's not 100% credible. I'm saying I have reason to believe she's dishonest and a purveyor of disinformation, and that she and DiEugenio have been doing this for decades.
Well, the book is 500 pages long.
We have to read it.
Yeah, it's got a lot of quote unquote new information, and just another one in the line there. I also happen to know that she sort of like takes away the spotlight, from Thane Caesar, and
which is frankly absurd. When Bobby fell, he grabbed Thane Eugene Caesar by the tie, and his tie clasp wound up on the floor of the pantry.
And one of the things that that surprised me actually is that Sirhan was actually shooting blanks, and that what they could see, a lot of the witnesses that she interviewed, what they saw was like this confetti paper, small pieces of paper that come out from shooting blanks, and that Rayford Johnson, having been a decathlete and having been around, these guns, to start races and stuff like that, was very familiar with that type of gun.
It was like a starter's gun.
A starter's gun, right. And that's what it sounded like to him. And these little pieces of paper, which are what, that type of ammunition.
Yeah, they're wads in a blank, yeah.
Right, that's what they are, like caps, and that's what a
People
lot of
have actually been killed by having been shot with a blank too close to their head, that it drove the wad of paper into their skull.
Yeah, so another one of the books and another one of the speakers that I found very, very fascinating was John Barber. And this is his book. Can you guys read that?
Your Mother's Not a Virgin?
That's right. Your Mother's Not a Virgin. And we all know his trajectory. Tremendous individual. I love John. I mean, it's not, we all know, for those wonder why John Barber, was practically an entertainer, but John Barber produced the first Garrison tapes video.
And I've watched it a million times.
We've watched it. We have copies of that tape, And what is so amazing, when I met John, I was talking about the Garrison tapes, and asked him, who was that guy narrating that your video? You know, that guy is so cool, the way he talks and everything.
It's him.
He goes, that's me.
Yeah, I knew that. Yeah.
That's me.
Well, listen, I know tonight we can't go long.
Yeah.
Would you like for me to reach out to Shane to see if he'd be willing to come on our show? Because he's in the UK, of course, there'd be the time difference. He'd have to stay up late.
Sure, if you can get a hold of him, sure, you know. You know, all in all, you know, I think this thing with this work by David Knight, you know, is groundbreaking. Okay, it dovetails, you know, with our work, because if you get that AR-5 under that cubby hole where we've been so many times, and you shoot
Right.
from there, you
Well,
know.
is it possible, Larry, that we were wrong about stuffing it into the cubbyhole cabinet and being able to just fold it up and put it under your cut?
No, I think it's right there with it, you know, because that's even easier, you know. Once you know,
Disassemble and put it in the lock.
you know, just put
Well,
it.
the last thing a shooter would want, Gary, would be to have the weapon with him after he's used it.
Yeah,
Really?
that's really true. The last thing you want is a gun with you after the.
Yeah, so if you got one that's easily, you know, fits right into that little box there, I think it's perfect
Yeah.
combination. And that it would have the ability to pass through the windshield and still hit the target without being deflected. That's been the principal question about the
That's right.
front. Could it actually have passed through the windshield and still hit Jack in the throat without being deflected? I have insisted it was true, and that's what happened. And we got this guy, Jim Lewis, going through junkyards in the back and firing at dummies through a windshield. And there it is. There it is. You just had the meeting upgraded, Gary, I see. Good.
Hey, I've been upgraded to unlimited time. We can go on all night, but Larry.
I don't think we want, because Larry has other tasks tonight before him.
But you know, the thing about this is that it would go through the windshield without wobbling and give you that perfect hole of entry like that, you know, that was found, you know, by the doctors, you know, and I think that's what's so fascinating, because it was a very powerful weapon, Jim.
Right.
An extreme, I would say, an extremely powerful. Very
You're talking about the weapon that could do exactly the job could perform, just as the bullet appears to have performed in Dealey Plaza. I like it.
That's right. And the thing about David's work is that he gave us, you know, a complete, you know, description of every weapon that could have been used, you know, and giving you all the correct characteristics. You know, all
the technical specs on why none of them would qualify except for this.
Exactly. And he would say,
that's a brilliant piece of work. I love it.
He would say, he said, I'm ruling this out. I'm ruling this out. I'm ruling this out. And I'm going, wait a minute. He's ruled out just every weapon. You know. So when he finally gets down to this one, a weapon that I didn't even know about, you know, I'm going like, wow, you know. So that's why.
I'll tell you my immediate reaction to Lisa Pease. She's introducing an invisible weapon we've never seen that performs a feat that we've never heard of before. I'm very suspicious, okay? I do not trust Lisa Pease any more than I do Jim DiEugenio. They're two sides of the same coin. And we have been through the mill with Jim DiEugenio. Larry, I'm fascinated. Your open-mindedness, I'm telling you, right off the bat, I have reservations. Gary shares them. Let me see if we can get Sean on, and then we can bring in Lisa Pease to see if she wants to present for us.
Well, I've read about 1/3 of her book, okay? And I can tell you right now some revelations that I didn't know. For example, they brought in Pierre Fink, you know, of, you know, the JFK. Yeah.
Pierre Fink, I know.
Yeah, right. You know, of JFK.
But remember, Fink had participated in the cover-up of Jack. So, you know, bringing Fink in,
I didn't know
Bobby is just to do more of the same. You can't count on him, to be honest.
Yeah, but what my point is that I didn't know that Pierre Fink was brought to supervise, you know, or watch over, you know, Noguchi, and Noguchi didn't want anything to do with this because, you know, we all know that Noguchi did his job, you know, and another.
Noguchi did a brilliant job and dissected the body and gave a proper autopsy report, which ought to have been the foundation of subsequent reports, but it was at odds with the LAPD, and so Noguchi got fired instead of the LAPD.
Right. And they
report being jettisoned is obviously inadequate. It's just as, David Lifton says, best evidence. The body's the best evidence, assuming it hasn't been tampered with. And Noguchi was a brilliant, world-famous medical examiner.
That's right, and he refused to be compromised. And another tidbit that I bet you guys don't know about, that James Jesses Angleton ended up with photographs of Bobby Kennedy's autopsy.
Well, that's very troubling, of course, because Angleton was key player in the background to JFK. So it's like he's mopping up loose ends.
Right. So, a lot of things, some new things, that she's been able to investigate. And,
we're more than happy for someone to actually go down the straight road of 100% truthers. We're more than happy. Anybody wants on the wagon, we're more than happy to have them. But
I'll reach out to Sean O'Sullivan about coming on the show, and we can go from there.
All right. You want to call it, fellas?
That's it.
All right, this has been JFK number 233. The state of conferences just might be on the way up. We'll have to watch out and see. We'll see you next time.
All right.
In Dallas, Texas, 3 shots were fired at President Kennedy's motorcade.
That's what we were told. Most Americans never believed Lee Oswald was the lone gunman, for excellent reasons. In fact, there were at least 6 shooters who fired from 8 to 10 shots or more who are identified here. We have, finally, the solution to the greatest murder mystery in history, laid out for the world to see, proof after proof after proof. Photos were faked, the body was changed, x-rays were altered, the home movies were fixed. 15 experts contribute to a 529-page book with 1,037 photos and diagrams in black and white and color.
Hi, this is Gary King. If you'd like JFK, who, how, and why, and would like to support the new JFK show, then go to patriotradiobooks.com. That's patriotradiobooks.com.